In late October of 2023, I camped deep in the Roosevelt National Forest of northern Colorado. I was 29, craving emptiness. The forest was tired, colorless, and peaceful in that half-dead fall way. The first night, normal. The second night, I woke suddenly. The air was colder. Then I heard it, a weak, soft snapping. Slow steps on thin twigs. One step, a long pause, another. They vibrated through the ground, circling my tent. Then, silence, a breath-holding silence. Next, a new sound, a faint, deliberate scraping against tree bark right outside, like someone dragging against a pine trunk. I pictured a man sliding down, leaning there. The scraping came and went for an hour. At dawn, I found them, bare footprints, human, long, narrow, with clear toes pressed into the frost. They circled and led to a pine tree with fresh, long scratches running down its bark. The marks were at shoulder height, then lower, as if someone had dragged their nails down slowly. I packed in a panic. Driving away, I saw more trees with long, straight cuts, some so fresh the sap was wet. It was a marked path leading to my camp. The worst part wasn't the sounds. It was the realization that someone had been out there, barefoot in freezing temperatures, watching me sleep, walking slow circles in the dark. I never camped alone again. The scariest thing isn't the woods. It's the person you don't hear until they're already beside you. I went camping deep in the northern woods in late October of 2022. I was 27, seeking silence in a remote valley miles from any trail. The place was perfect. A flat spot near a slow stream, the ground soft with pine needles. The first night was easy. On the second night, just past midnight, I heard a new sound. A slow, steady dragging through the needles. Pattern. Apache. Like someone dragging a foot or pulling something heavy. Came closer, inch by inch, until it stopped right outside my tent, where my feet were. I heard the crunch of needles under direct weight. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After an eternity, the dragging started again, moving away into the valley until it faded. At first light, I investigated. Right where the sound stopped, the pine needles were pushed aside in a narrow, straight line, as if something long and heavy had been dragged. The line continued into the deeper woods, sloping down between thick bushes. I packed fast and left without looking for answers. For weeks, I replayed that dragging sound. It wasn't wind. It wasn't trees. It wasn't any animal I know. It was something real, physical, moving with purpose through the valley in the dark, getting close enough to touch my tent. That trip taught me the woods don't need monsters to scare you. The real things, the quiet, physical things that don't care if you understand them, are enough. I haven't camped alone since. In the fall of 2019, I camped in a quiet stretch of northern Colorado forest. I was 27. The place felt heavier than usual, the wind making branches creak from below. That night, inside my tent, I heard it. Slow, spaced steps on dry leaves. They stopped. Then, a soft brushing against the tent fabric, testing it right against my side. I held my breath. The brushing stopped, leaving a silence so deep I heard my own heartbeat. At dawn, the proof was undeniable. Footprints. Worn sneaker prints, circling my tent twice, pointing directly at the wall where I'd felt the brushing. They led into the trees. I packed with shaking hands, feeling the forest had become a place of hiding. The realization hit me slowly. Whoever it was had walked quietly, too quietly for someone without a light at night. Driving away, I didn't feel safe until the forest was out of sight. I learned that night that the scariest things in the woods are the people who move in the dark without speaking, leaving nothing behind but clear footprints pointed straight at you. And I still wonder, how long had they been there before I woke up? In late September of 2018, I camped in remote northern Alberta. I was 29. The silence was profound, broken only by the forest's own sounds. The first night was calm. The second night, I woke to a noise, something stepping on dry branches, shifting its weight. It stopped. The silence felt wrong. Then, slow, deliberate steps in the needles behind my tent. They stopped. I lay frozen. Then, a gentle click, something touching my tent pole. Like a hand brushing against it. The steps circled the tent, then stopped right behind my head. I could feel the presence through the fabric. Minutes passed like hours. At first light, I found them shoe prints. Human, circling the tent, stopping right where I'd heard the sound, pointing at where I slept. The woods felt suddenly small, the trees pressing in. I packed and fled. At my truck, I found the final clue. Mud. The same dark mud from the riverbank, under the door handle. Someone had touched my truck in the night. They had studied my camp, circled my tent, and checked my vehicle. They had every chance to do worse. For some reason, they didn't. But that was enough. The scariest things are the people who stand outside your thin tent wall, watching you breathe, and leave only clear footprints behind. I was 31 when I camped in northern Idaho in late September. I wanted real quiet. I found a perfect spot on a small rise near a narrow stream, surrounded by whispering pines. The first night was peaceful. The second night, around midnight, I woke alert. The forest had a deep quiet, a thick silence. Then, footsteps. Heavy, slow, steady steps crushing through dry leaves, walking straight toward my camp. They stopped behind my tent. I didn't move. 30 seconds of silence. Then a new sound. Breathing. Slow breaths through the nose, standing just a few steps away. I stared into the fire, not daring to look. Minutes passed with me sitting there, and whatever it was standing behind me, breathing in the dark. My legs trembled with a fear that reached my bones. The breathing stopped. I didn't know if it had moved or was still there. I waited until the chill forced me to move to my tent. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I found them. Bare footprints. Full adult bare feet. Toes deep in the cold mud. Circling my tent and the fire pit. They stopped right where I'd been sitting. Someone had watched me. Someone had stood barefoot in the cold October forest, breathing in the dark just feet away. Driving out, I saw one last fresh bare footprint in the mud by the road. I never went back. Nothing supernatural was in that forest. The scariest thing was simply another human being who watched without speaking and walked around my tent in the cold like it was normal. The silence was the worst part. Fear is real, and sometimes danger only needs footsteps in the dark. I went camping alone in northern Idaho in late September of 2019. I was 31, seeking peace near a slow river. The first night was quiet. The second day, I found oddities. Long, straight cuts in tree bark, a pile of stacked stones, an old thermos. Back at camp, my cooler had been moved. That night, the fear set in. Deep in the second night, I woke to a soft crunch outside. Slow, cautious steps on dry needles behind my tent. They got closer, then stopped. My tent fabric pushed inward slightly, trembling as something brushed or leaned against it. I stayed frozen, feeling the air warm with my own fear. The sound of weight shifting, then slow steps fading away. At dawn, behind my tent, deep marks in the dirt. Long smudges like something had been dragged toward the tree line. I should have left. I stayed a third night, my nerves shot. That night, I heard the steps again. Closer. They reached the tent edge and stopped. I heard the faintest sound of breathing, a slow, steady rhythm right outside the fabric wall. Then it faded, and the steps moved away. I didn't sleep. At first light, I packed and fled. Driving out, I saw more fresh cuts in the trees, a marked path leading right to my camp. I didn't stop until I hit the highway. I know someone was out there, watching me for days, moving my things, walking around my tent, getting close enough to breathe inches from where I lay. If I had stayed one more night, I'm certain I wouldn't have driven out at all. In late September of 2023, I hiked 12 miles into the remote Clamoth Mountains. I was 31. I found a beautiful, isolated lake and set up camp. The first night was easy. The next day, hiking, I found odd, dragging footprints. That night, I woke to slow, steady steps on dry leaves. They came from the tree line, controlled and careful, then stopped. The silence was dizzying. In the morning, I found disturbed leaves behind my tent, a path too clean to be an animal. Later, circling the lake, I found more of the same dragging footprints, fresh. They were following the lake just like I was. That second night, I heard the steps again. This time, they came toward the tent. Step, pause, step, pause. They stopped a few meters away. Absolute silence. I gripped my knife. After an eternity, they moved away. At dawn, I packed in a shaking rush. A mile from the lake, I saw the footprints again, fresh, dragging, following my trail out. Someone had left the lake behind me. My chest tightened. I jogged, looking over my shoulder until I reached my car. By the back tire, dry leaves were pushed aside in the same pattern from behind my tent. Someone had stood there, watching. I drove off without looking back. Someone was out there the entire trip, moving quietly, keeping their distance, but wanting me to know slowly, quietly, that I wasn't alone. I stopped camping alone. Sometimes the scariest thing is a real person who decides you're worth watching, one careful step at a time. In late September of 2019, I camped in remote northern Alberta. I was 29, pushing into deeper quiet than ever before. The first night was calm. The second night, I woke to a noise, something stepping on dry branches, shifting weight. It stopped. The silence felt wrong. Then, slow, deliberate steps in the needles behind my tent. They stopped. I lay frozen. Then, a gentle click, something touching my tent pole, like a hand brushing against it. The steps circled the tent, then stopped right behind my head. I could feel the presence through the fabric. Minutes passed like hours. At first light, I found them shoe prints. Human, circling the tent, stopping right where I'd heard the sound, pointing at where I slept. The woods felt suddenly small. I packed and fled. At my truck, I found the final clue. Mud. The same dark mud from the riverbank, under the door handle. Someone had touched my truck in the night. They had studied my camp, circled my tent, and checked my vehicle. They had every chance to do worse. For some reason, they didn't. But that was enough. The scariest things are the people who stand outside your thin tent wall, watching you breathe, and leave only clear footprints behind. I camped on the north edge of Willowbreak Forest in late September of 2019. I was 29. The place was perfectly quiet, miles from anyone. The first night, normal forest sounds. The second night, after midnight, I woke to slow, controlled steps, someone placing their weight down carefully, trying not to be heard. They stopped at the edge of the clearing. I waited, my heart beat loud. I must have fallen asleep. In the morning, I saw them. Bare footprints in the mud, toes pressed in, circling the clearing. I tried to calm myself with tasks but kept glancing at the trees. That afternoon, hiking, I found more fresh bare footprints on wet sand, facing my campsite. They had come from upstream. That night, I skipped the fire. Hours passed. Then, steps already inside the clearing. They circled the tent once and stopped right behind my head. I felt the presence through the fabric. After minutes, they moved away, slow and careful. I didn't sleep. At dawn, the bare footprints were everywhere, some inches from where my head had been. I packed in a frantic rush. At my truck, the final message. A single muddy handprint, fingers dragged down the passenger window. I didn't look around. I drove and never went back. I still don't know who walks barefoot in the dark, moving so quietly. But they were real and they watched me. The scariest thing in the woods is the person you don't hear until they are already standing right beside you. In the summer of 2013, I took a solo trip deep into Pennsylvania's Allegheny National Forest. I was 28, craving quiet. I found a remote clearing, set up camp by a creek, and enjoyed the pure silence. But as night deepened, a twig snapped sharply, close. My flashlight caught a dark shape slipping between trees. The next day, exploring, I found large, irregular human-like footprints and, following them, an old but intact makeshift snare trap, the kind poachers use. My nerves were on edge. That night, footsteps circled my camp, slow and deliberate. I heard rustling at the clearing's edge. I grabbed my rifle, unzipped the tent, and saw a figure moving quickly into the trees. I fired a warning shot. The sound of heavy, retreating footsteps followed. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I packed and left, rifle in hand. Rangers later confirmed a group of illegal hunters had been operating there, setting traps that could hurt hikers. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a lesson in real-world danger. The biggest threat isn't the wilderness itself, but the people who don't respect it or others. I still love camping, but now I'm more careful. I check with rangers, let someone know where I am, and carry protection. That trip changed how I see the woods forever. You have to be ready for both the peace and the danger. That's the truth I learned in the dark.